Hey everybody, today we're going to take a look at the presidential trends in each state between 2000 and 2024. Last week we took a look at the shifts in each state. This time it's going to compare those shifts to the swing of the entire nation. So of course at the end we're going to have a map, but first we've got to go through the background information about the two elections. So real quick, in 2000, George W. Bush eked out a narrow electoral college win with 271 votes. He carried 30 states and he got 47.9% of the national popular vote. Al Gore took the loss. He carried 20 states plus D.C. and he won the popular vote with 48.4%. Then again, we've got the 2024 election. Donald Trump wins it with 312. He carried 31 states plus Maine second, and he won the popular vote with 49.8%. Kamala Harris takes the loss with 226. She carried 19 states plus D.C. and Nebraska second, and that was good enough for 48.3% of the vote. Now we can get onto this exquisite looking spreadsheet. The left column are the states. Then we've got the popular vote in 2000 for Al Gore. Then we've got it for George W. Bush. Then we can jump ahead 24 years. We've got the popular vote in each state for Kamala Harris. Then we've got it for Donald Trump. Then we've got the margin in each state shaded accordingly for the year 2000. Then we've got it for 2024. Then we've got the swing or the shift between those two elections. That's also the column we had in last week's video. Finally, the most important column for this video are the trends. That's going to compare the shift in each state to the entire national shift. The last two columns also have shading. The darkest colors are 10 or more points and the lightest colors are under 5%. Now to get our baseline, first we've got to get the national shift. So in 2000, again we've got Al Gore at 48.4, George W. Bush at 47.9, then Harris at 48.3, Trump at 49.8. The popular vote margin in 2000 was a half a point for Al Gore. In 2024, it was 1.5 for Donald Trump. So that means it swung 0.5% away from Al Gore, then another 1.5 points toward Donald Trump. If you add those together, overall that comes out to a national swing of an even 2% toward Trump and the Republicans. So that's what we're going to compare all the states to. Anything above 2% has a red shift. Anything below it is going to be blue. So let's dive into it. First up, we've got Alabama. In 2000, Al Gore got 41.6%. George W. Bush won this state with 56.5%. 6 elections later, Kamala Harris sank down to 34.1%. Trump bumped it up to 64.6%. The margin in 2000 was 14.9% for Bush. In 24, it was bumped up to 30.5% for Trump. The difference between those two elections resulted in a 15.6% swing toward the right, but the country already moved 2% in that direction. So the difference between that 15.6 and the national swing of 2% comes out to a trend in Alabama of 13.6% toward the Republicans. So hopefully that makes sense and you understand the difference between a swing and a trend. You could also do the same thing for individual counties compared to the state or even compared to the country. But now that everything is out there, let's quickly go through the rest of these states. In Alaska, that's kind of a red state, but it trended hard toward the Dems by 19.8. Arizona's become a battleground state, but not a big trend there, just 2.7 bluer. Arkansas had a big red lurch of 23.2. California, 10.4 toward the Dems. Colorado was won by Bush in 2000. Since then, it trended left, more than doubled California at 21.4. Connecticut, that's a blue state, but it actually had a very slight red trend of 1%. Delaware went toward the Dems by 3.6. Florida got a lot redder at 11.1. Georgia got a lot bluer at 11.5. Also in that direction is Hawaii at 6.8. Idaho at 5.1. And in Illinois, it did swing 1.1% toward the right, but that was less than the 2% national swing. So it did trend at 0.9% toward the Dems. Indiana got mildly redder at 1.2. Iowa was won by Gore in 2000. Since then, it trended hard toward the right at 11.5. Kansas is bluer by 6.6. Kentucky double digits redder at 13.5. Louisiana was similar at 12.3. Maine went in the opposite direction by 3.8. Maryland about 10 points bluer than that at 14.1. Massachusetts, that's a deep blue state, but that had the smallest trend out of all the states. It moved almost perfectly in line with the nation. A 2.1 red swing means it trended toward the Republicans by just 0.1%. You're not going to get much better than that. Michigan trended right by 4.6. Minnesota went left at 3.8. Mississippi again back toward the right at an even 4. Missouri, a lot redder than that that at 13.1. Montana got a couple of steps bluer at 7.1. Nebraska even a step beyond that at 10.4. Nevada just leaned in that direction by 2.4. But New Hampshire had a moderate jump in that direction at 6.2. New Jersey had a lurch to the right at 7.9. New Mexico lurched in the opposite direction at 8. New York again went in the opposite direction toward the GOP at 10.5. But North Carolina again did the exact same thing in the opposite direction at 11.6. North Dakota had movement toward the Republicans at 6.9. Ohio 5.5. And Oklahoma at 10.4. Oregon had a major blue shift of 15.8. Pennsylvania a milder red trend at 3.9. Rhode Island, that's another blue state, but that trended significantly toward the right at 13.4. South Carolina also tied for the smallest trend. It swung 1.9 redder, but that means it trended bluer by just 0.1%. Like Massachusetts, you're not going to get any better than that. South Dakota got a little redder at 4.5. Tennessee, home state of Al Gore in 2000, got a ton redder than that at 23.8. Texas, home state of Bush, trended bluer by 9.6. Utah, more than double that at 20.9. Vermont had the biggest blue trend out of all the states at 23.6. Virginia, also significant in that direction at 15.3. Washington State, just under that at 14.7. West Virginia had the biggest trend out of all the states. This is toward the Republicans, and it's by a colossal 33.6. Wisconsin, like some of these other states, has gone back and forth between these two elections. Not a lot of movement there, but it did trend bluer by 0.9%. And finally, Wyoming, super red state, it trended a little bit redder at 3.7. Then we've got Washington, D.C. on here. That trended bluer by just under 10% at 9.6. So those are all the states, and those are all of the trends. Now, if you're looking to help visualize this data, let's take it all. Let's get it on a map. Here it is. We've got similar shading. Anything 10 or more points are going to be the darkest colors. This time, the lightest colors are going to be under 1%. So we've got 4 levels of shading. And this time we do have some tilt margins. It's going to be Wisconsin, Illinois, Massachusetts, and South Carolina. So a total mix of different states there. But those are the states that pretty much move the closest with the entire country. But aside from that, it looks like the Democrats actually come out ahead here in terms of electoral votes. Much of their gains are concentrated in parts of the Great Plains in Texas all the way to the West Coast. But they also do a lot of damage in the Sun Belt from Georgia up through Virginia and Maryland. Republicans make their biggest mark in parts of the Northeast and the Midwest. Then it's going to be around in the South all the way down to Florida. But overall, the Democrats got almost the exact same amount of popular vote in 2000 as they did in 24. 2000 was an extremely close and contentious election. And given that the popular vote did swing 2% toward the Republicans, it's safe to say that over those 24 years, a lot of states have gone in a lot of different directions. Some of them have gone back and forth, but some of them have gone blue off a cliff like Colorado. Others have gone red off a cliff like Iowa or West Virginia. And there's also some red states out here that got a lot bluer like Nebraska or Utah. But at this point, they're still just way too red to actually be considered competitive. And on the other side, it's the same thing in New York or Rhode Island. They certainly got a lot redder, but again, nobody's really going to consider those to be competitive. Now, anything could change in the future, and some of these states are going to have different reasons for trending the way that they did. But I think few people back in 2000 would have been able to predict how these states were going to move almost 2.5 decades later. But that's how it goes in politics. You make your predictions, but a lot of times you're going to be wrong. And who knows how the states are going to trend next, but it's going to be fun to find out. There's always going to be more you could say about it, but for now, let me know in the comments. What do you think about any of the trends in any of these states? Which do you think are the most surprising? How about the least surprising? Why do you think some states moved more than others? And do you think any of these trends can tell us which way they're going to move in the future? Let me know down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to help support the channel. Hit the bell for notifications. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.